Hello, welcome to West Star Tarot. It's Liz, and today I want to come to talk to you about a new oracle deck I just got a little over a week ago, and it is called The Rooted Woman. By the guidebook is by Sharon Blackie, and the artwork is by Willow. And what drew my attention to this oracle was not the author, but the artist. I have several, two other decks by Hannah, and I find them enchanting. I love her artwork. It's somewhat whimsical, and it's mainly the other decks, not this one so much, but the other two decks I have by Hannah have none, if only a few people, mainly countryside of England. I think she lives in Cornwall. English countryside, common animals that you would see in the English countryside, and trees and forests and so forth. And I love and find her artwork enchanting. On the other hand, Sharon, I first heard of, so I've had this deck, it's called Hair and Moon Oracle by Hannah. I've had this for several years, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But Sharon, who I think is fairly well known, I only came across maybe a year ago, less than a year ago, because I saw this book, Haggitude, and I thought, I have to read this book. Haggitude? I love the title. So I bought it, and I'm going to be honest that it's still in my TBR pile. But I'm going on vacation later this month, and Haggitude is coming with me. So hopefully I'll make some progress on Haggitude. And then this is the book. It's called If Women Rose Rooted, and this is by Sharon. And I think the idea for the deck came from this book. And they do work in conjunction with each other. However, you don't have to have the deck to work with the book, and you don't have to have the book to work with the deck. But after I bought the deck just a couple days later, I thought, you know what, I think I am going to get the book as well. So those two books are coming with me on vacation, as is this oracle, The Rooted Woman. So let's see. I've talked about Sharon's books. Let me talk a little bit about Hannah's oracles. So as I said, this is the Moon and Hair. It has 12 cards. So you can see Hannah's lovely art style. So I pull these out. I haven't been doing it for a while, but I used to pull out one per month, one per moon cycle, which sadly there's only 12, and we have 13 moon cycles in a year. So that is the beautiful Hair and Moon, which I adore. And it came with a little handmade set of runes. So we got the runes, the guidebook, and the cards. Charming, really. And then just a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, I got this one by Hannah, Folktales Oracle. And it's also charming. I mean, these are independently produced. It comes with this little bag that has been stamped, and Hannah and her husband gather all these things together. Here are the backs, and I'll just go through a few of the cards. They have a keyword. There's 3 sections: growing, being, being, growing, understanding. So there's suits, if you will, for each of those categories. So you're getting a feeling here of Hannah's artwork, which, as I said, I simply adore. It's right up my alley. So there we go. That's the Folktales Oracle. So now let's get on to the Rooted Woman. So here is the guidebook. I have to say, you know, in years past, I was not a huge fan of Hay House. They were just a little bit too love and light for me. And I mean, some people are into that. Cool. But it was just a little bit too in that way for me. But I would say over the past year and a half or so, all of a sudden I started noticing that I have all these Hay House decks that are like my favorite decks. So I'm finding that really interesting. It's like they've kind of upped their game a little bit and changed. Apparently they've decided that a good business model is to follow decks that are coming out on Kickstarter and to then bring the artist into mass market publishing. And I think that's probably what happened with Hannah. You know, I think that this is a tremendous match. Hannah's artwork and Sharon's vision for the Rooted Woman. And I'll get to the artwork in a minute. Let me just quickly tell you, so in this guidebook we have a little snippet about the artist and a little snippet about the author. And I'll just read, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but Hannah Willow is an artist and jewelry maker who looks to the stories, songs, poems, and characters that are embedded into the landscape as a source of inspiration for her work. Her imagery is full of animals, hills, woodlands, primeval places, moons, and constellations. She lives in Cornwall, UK with her husband and many animals. And this is Sharon. Dr. Sharon Blackie is an award-winning writer, psychologist, and mythologist. Her highly acclaimed books, courses, lectures, and workshops are focused on the development of the mythic imagination and on the relevance of myth, fairy tales, and folk tradition to the personal, cultural, and environmental problems we face today. And for Rooted Women, there's a really nice chunk in the beginning that talks about, introduces the deck, the sort of rationale behind the deck, which is the heroine's journey. So the heroine's journey, which I offer you in this deck, represents a path to understanding how profoundly enmeshed we are in the web of life on this planet, and how our entanglements with the world around us nourish us more deeply than any other source of sustenance. The heroine's journey that women need to make today is one which plants us firmly back in the wider world where we belong, grounded and rooted and ready to rise up to protect the earth. In many ways, it's an antidote to the swashbuckling action-adventure that is the classic hero's journey, so beloved of Hollywood and blockbuster fiction. It's a post-heroic journey firmly founded in women's ways of being and becoming. And so she goes on to talk more about the deck, how it's structured, different readings we can do, and so on and so forth. So this deck does have a structure. It has suits, places, allies, journey, and then it has 2 cards at the end, which I'll let me start with them. So at the very end, and she says you can take these cards out if you rather not use them, is the Peregrina, which is akin to the Fool, and Rooted, which is akin to the World card in the Tarot Arcana. And I just have to say, Hay House kind of upped their game in this packaging. It's got, you know, this nice, easy to access deck. There's a little poem here. May the rooted women who were our ancestors and the spirits and stories of the lands they lived in guide us on our heroine's journey. And you can see how beautifully Hannah's art fits in with the concept for this deck. And can I just say, anything purple with green I'm going to at least be interested in looking at. I love the shades of purple here and with the shade of green that has been chosen. So nicely done, Hay House. The guidebook is lovely. I didn't look to see how many pages it is. 145. She briefly addresses the places cards. The roots of our ancient traditions are anchored in the land, and the land is our greatest teacher, and goes on to speak more about that. For allies, the allies cards feature women from European myth and folklore who represent archetypal roles and qualities which will be helpful to us along our journey. Some of them might be thought of as goddesses, others are otherworldly characters from myth or folklore, so on. And then the journey. The journey cards include different kinds or shapes of or ways of journeying. For example, the quest, the pilgrimage, the labyrinth, as well as cards which reflect the different stages of the heroine's journey that we're traveling along, the descent or crossroads or return. So that's the suits, and I'm going to go through each one of the suits. Each suit has 17 cards. And really my only complaint with this deck is that each suit is numbered 1 through 17. And I wish that they had somehow maybe just had kept going 17, 18, 19, 20, and so forth. Or, oh, you know what I'm just noticing? Never mind, I just noticed. Triangle, circle, square. I take back my criticism. I was going to say maybe a different color background, but no, they did a different shape, and it's really funny. I've used this deck about 6 or 7 times now, and I didn't notice that. So here we go. All right, so here's the places. And can you see there's, in these cards, not all the cards, there's so this is the island, boundless, and isolation. Cave, this is real typical Hannah artwork. Incubation, bog, stagnation, forest, finding the path, meadow, flourishing and regenerating, mountain, I'm not going to read the keywords because you can see them, sea, moor. So we can really see the British countryside. River, look at, they're so beautiful with the fox and the moon in the background. Lake, oh, what lurks beneath. I actually drew this card the other day. Cliff, bridge, stone circle, the sacred landscape with the badger. Cairn, portal to the mystery. The Fisher King Court. And then finally, the Isle of Women, Women's Mysteries. So that is the first suit. And the second suit are allies. So here we see Well Maiden, Old Crane Woman. I mean, is this art not lovely? Sovereignty, the power of the land. This really hits my heart. Selkie, Miss, Divine Madness, Caradwin, Ellen, Rhiannon. So you can see these British Isle goddesses and heroines. The buried moon, the hidden feminine. So you can see the moon reflected in the well or the stream. Sheila Nagig, one of my favorites. Love her so much. Another one of my favorites, Kaliak. Look at her. She is stunning. And I know that there's a Gaelic way to pronounce a couple of these last ones, and I'm sorry, but I don't. Beyond Fiesa, I'm sure I should have looked that up. Bad on me. Matcha. Old Woman of Dreams, the Maker of Visions. The Grail Bearer, Spiritual Nourishment. Beyond Sea, the Keening Woman. Look at her. Whoa. And another one of my favorites, the Morrigan. So those are our allies. And then the journey is Quest. Imran, which I think I remember correctly means rowboat. Rowing about. Pilgrimage. Labyrinth. The Wasteland. So this next one I want to read a little from the book on, because it's called The Call. Beautiful. And I did a reading for a friend of mine who came to me because she's wants to know about, is it time for her to change jobs? So she came for advice on changing her job. And I did a 9-card box square for her. And it was just like all these cards that said, move along. Move along. 6 of Swords, 8 of Cups, Death. All these cards that were like, yeah, time to move. You know, so I did the reading, and it was a little bit, it wasn't a soft and fuzzy reading. So I thought, well, you know, I'll pull an oracle card at the end so we can kind of end on a hug. So we got this card. I'm going to hold it up while I read the book. So here's her hug card. The heroine's journey always begins with a call to change. Sooner or later, we're called to wake up. It's a call to rise up out of the unendurable every day and inhabit a full, authentic life. And when we hear it, we must answer this call or forever be lost in the wasteland, which is this card. The call can come at many different times. When we find ourselves unhappy in our jobs or in our marriages. I just was like, ooh, well, so much for your hug. And she said, a friend of mine who I did the reading for said, it doesn't say that. And I said, it does. And so she read the guidebook. I was just like, well, I'm sorry. I wanted to end on a warm and fuzzy note, but guess not. Anyway, I've done, I think, 5 or 6 readings myself, and they're not, you know, they're not punch you in the gut kind of readings, but they aren't hugs. I love it. It's perfect. It's just, you know, we all need these kinds of decks. This is the Threshold, the Fall. So this is the journey, different pieces of the journey. The Descent. I got this card the other day. The Crossroads, another beautiful card. Temptation. Initiation. Transformation. Shape-shifting. Reclaiming the feminine. The Sacred Marriage, and finally, the Return. So I could not be happier with this deck, especially now that I've figured out there's different shapes for the suits. Ooh, I don't know how that one got by me. But once again, I'm very pleased with Hay House. I love this collaboration between Sharon and Hannah. And the guidebook doesn't go into it. So but I'd really like to know, how did they work together? Did Sharon share her vision for the deck all the different things she spoke about in the guidebook with Hannah, and then Hannah did the artwork. Did Sharon say, this is how I envision this card? Did they work together? I'm not sure how that went, and I'd love to know more about how that collaboration, was it a close collaboration? Not so much. But anyway, regardless, I think the result, the end product is great. And I am so happy to have this deck. It's one of the nicest decks that speaks to me the most in a while. I'm really happy to have it. And I will be working with it a lot when I go away. I'm not going to bring too many decks with me, so I'm going to have to just stick with the decks I brought. So I think since I'm bringing Sharon's books, I will bring the deck that Hannah and Sharon created together. And I'm loving this. So let me ask you, have you bought this deck? Do you have it? Are you intrigued by it? Do you have any of Hannah's work? Have you read Sharon's work? What do you think of this collaboration? And what do you think about Hay House kind of upping its game a little bit? I'm thrilled with that. I did a video on it last year, I think in March or April. I think it was in March. It was while I was on vacation last year. I talked about how I met a friend of mine, a tarot friend of mine, for lunch. And we do this thing we call it show and tell. So we live about an hour away from each other, and we'll meet in the middle. And, we have different style. We like a lot, some decks we like the same, and then other decks we don't. So we always kind of bring decks and books with us that we think the other person will be interested in. And I looked down and I thought, oh my gosh, 3 of the decks I brought are Hay House. It was Charlie Claire Burgess, Fifth Spirit, the Herbal Astrological deck, and the Sacred Medicine deck. And was there a 4th Hay House? I don't think so. Anyway, I was like, why am I buying all these Hay House decks? And not only am I buying them, but they're becoming my favorites. So, hey, I guess some publishers are listening to what we're saying we want in our decks. So anyway, I hope this finds you well. And in these difficult times we're living in, I'm sending you so much joy and loving kindness. Blessed be. Peace.